First-person perspective dungeon crawlers are a classic video game genre, and there's a brand new one called Crystal Rift out on the PS4. But is this one dungeon worth exploring, or is it worse than getting lost in a labyrinth? Crystal Rift is a dungeon exploring puzzle game with some combat and plenty of traps that will instantly kill you. The game is soaked with an old school feel. Not only do you have the first person perspective, you also have only 4 directions that you're able to look. It is very classic in the way that it ends up presenting itself. Unfortunately though, it's old school to a fault in many ways. The game is broken up into 24 different floors or dungeons for you to explore. Each will provide different challenges and some different styles of puzzles. You'll have plenty of open up a switch and open up a door and then having to find and backtrack to where it is. Doing many floor different puzzles where you'll have to hit a switch to get a floor piece to come up, and then when you step on that, another piece around you falls down and you have to slowly traverse and figure out your way through it, or if you end up making a misstep, you'll end up falling into the endless pits and lose a life. With the game being broken up into 4 different difficulties affecting how many lives you end up having, but if you end up game overing, you start back at that floor with your set of lives back at your disposal. You can find plenty of extra lives throughout the course of the dungeon floors, as well as you can save at the beginning and sometimes in the middle of different floors. You explore the dungeons armed with a sword, but you also gain new elemental abilities as you're going through each of the dungeons. These weapons can be used either to attack enemies, or even puzzle solve sometimes, like using the fireballs in order to take down ice walls. The combat in the game, though, is one of its biggest lackluster features. It's basically like playing hokey pokey with the enemies that you will be battling. They kill you instantly, with hit detection being awful at best. And a lot of times it's pretty much you'll swing your sword at an enemy and hit them, then step back, wait for them to swing, then step forward again, and repeat the process over and over again until each enemy ends up going down. Because hit detection is very lax and it's difficult to see because of the perspective that you're stuck with the camera, this ends up making not only the combat clunky, but also not very fun. And while the combat I don't find enjoyable, there is some enjoyment to be had when it comes to the puzzles, hitting the switches and doing the strategies of figuring out which switch is going to open up which door or which piece of the floor. But being unable to look up or down makes these puzzles even more difficult and frustrating than they need it to be. If you could just simply look down a lot of times, it could really make a lot of the puzzles a lot more enjoyable to solve. While exploring each of the floors, you're going to find hidden passageways as well as the game's collectibles and plenty of extra lives if you're willing to do exploring. A lot of the hidden passages are you're blocked behind like walls that you'll have to press a block and then it opens up a hidden passage, or just attacking the wall and being able to bust down certain bricks. Besides the difficulties and the options, you'll also find the ability to change up the way the camera and movement ends up working, so you can mess with it a little bit while you still can't get things that would make it really easy and enjoyable to explore the dungeons. There are some options to make things a bit easier, especially to the eyes. I feel like some people may end up getting a little bit sick playing a game like this. There's also the ability to adjust the scare level. It wasn't anything too grand or anything, but there are some scares here and there. Mostly like in shadowy figures, you'll turn and look in the door and all of a sudden there's a shadow kind of looking back. It was nothing that made me jump by any means, but it's nice that you have that option to tweak it if you're just looking for the dungeon experience without any of the little scary nuances here and there. From the technical side of things, the game did run smoothly. I didn't run into any crashing or any major glitching of any kind. Crystal Rift is available for $12.99 on the PlayStation 4. It does feature a full trophy list and a platinum, thankfully. The thing is though, while the game does have some length to it, being that it is 24 floors for you to go and explore, and some of these floors are pretty vast with a lot of puzzles to solve, the overall clunkiness of combat and the puzzle solving in general just made the experience more of a chore the farther I ended up exploring. With everything said, I'm going to be giving Crystal Rift a 3 out of 10. But anyway guys, that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course I hope you enjoyed.